Good afternoon and welcome to this Seatrade Maritime webinar with Hexagon, Empowering Small and Medium Ports, the Future of Maritime Operations. My name is Gary Howard. I am Senior Correspondent at Seatrade Maritime News, and I'll be your host for today's discussion and over the next 60 minutes or so. The broad topic today covers port community systems, and we have two experts from Hexagon to detail the capabilities of their systems, the problems that they help to solve, and how a port community system as a service model is a cost-effective approach designed for small and medium ports. Your speakers for today are Yasnok, Director EMEA Government Transportation and Defence at Hexagon Safety, Infrastructure and Geospatial, and Lucius Aman, EMEA Lead, Hexagon Connect Business Development. This conversation is pretty timely for the port sector as the digital revolution continues to expand across supply chains, and the myriad industries that interact with the world's ports place higher demands on their digital infrastructure in order to meet their own goals, whether that's efficiency, security, decarbonisation, and I'm sure we'll hear of plenty more over the next hour as well. Lloyd's Register recently published a health check on the global shipping industry in the form of its 2024 barometer, a report which highlighted some digital and decarbonisation challenges facing ports. One of the issues noted was a concentration of the main digital projects within large ports and the critical need for these technologies to spread to more ports. There are, of course, challenges to achieving this rollout, from breaking open data silos to meeting what can be rather high capital requirements. And I'm looking forward to hearing how Hexagon can help address some of those challenges and bring a host of other operational benefits. A couple of quick housekeeping notes before we get into it. To the right of your screen, you'll see there's a chat function where you can send messages to us and to your fellow viewers. Above that, you'll see a tab where you can ask questions to our speakers, which we'll cover in a Q&A after the presentation. If you see a question that you'd also like to hear the answer to, click the thumbs up, and that will help me to prioritize our questions during the Q&A. The webinar will be available on demand after today, and we'll distribute a link to you to share with your colleagues or anyone else who might benefit from its contents. That's enough for me for now. I'll hand it over to Uwe to kick things off.
So thank you very much, Gary, for this nice introduction, and I'm looking forward to have a great hour with you. The ability to introduce what Hexagon is going to do for especially small and medium ports. The menu of the day is we start discussing a little bit on what are the abilities for sharing information. Then we talk a little bit about relevant capabilities we believe you need to have in order to optimize operations on the port. Then I will hand over to my fellow colleague, Lucius. He will dive into more details into the port community system as a service. And I'm going to wrap up with some samples we made for a Spanish port to optimize the port call management a bit more in detail, and also to wrap up on where we see the future of these whole technology and how it could be applied in a very meaningful sense for a port. Starting with sharing information, and here we take the sample of the Port of Lisbon. Within the Port of Lisbon, we have multiple systems in place, and from a kind of very traditional web GIS system, they do have on the left-hand side a lot of different categories or layers which are bundling information in the map, which is linked to certain topics, but also, and obviously, we do have the interactive elements like the moving vessels. And when you select a vessel, you're going to see the vessel information about if it's a ferry, if it's any kind of cargo ship, a passenger ship, and what information, obviously, you're going to expect from this topic. But you, of course, go into more detail, means that you have a huge bunch of information about how the port is organized, how it's structured, which areas are foreseen for which elements, what is the cargo area, what is the oil area, and so on. And obviously, all these elements are interactive. You can dive into the details. You can generate reports, which then either be producing in PDF or you can send out the information via email directly. So everything related to how to manage the space of these ports in a very efficient way. We are also working on newer versions on this WebGIS part, which are more interactive and more business-oriented. For example, here you see a screen of the port, and you can directly see in this terms, what are the sailing boats, what is the occupation of the available capacity, which boat is in for long, how long is it in, who's going to administer it, who's going to order it. You have this pie chart diagram where you can select certain regions of your port in order to make these analytics. So the whole idea is to get really a port information system on your fingertip, easy to operate, easy to navigate, and helps you to dive into your business intelligence part to find the KPIs, the key indicators to make your port operation even more interesting and more efficient. Similar, we do have the port side with portal information, in this case, the ship information. So here you see all these ships with destination of the port of Lisbon and the estimated arrival time, where do they come from. We do have a kind of heat map on how dense people are coming. We see what are the hot topics or the hot areas in terms of on which day in time and also which day in the week. So a lot of information you can structure in a way that your port operations can be optimized depending on the actual needs and the foreseeable needs. But also we do license management in terms of if you do have subcontracted areas or even outside areas which belongs to your port, then we can monitor, manage, and really see who is renting which part of a certain area, a certain location. Is it subcontracted? What is his supply? You are contracted to him, like in terms of electricity or water and wastewater. So all this contractual information for the subcontracting of the land you are operating can be managed by this system as well. But also we can take care, and for everyone who was in Lisbon knows that Lisbon has sometimes some traffic jams, also like in Rotterdam or in Hamburg or all the other ports. So we also have an idea on the hinterland support, means what are the construction sites, where are road blockers, where are also rail blockers, so that you have an idea about the expected capacity of your goods you need to transport and how to transport them. And this is obviously not only true on the land side, but also you will see later on an example where we're going to show this on the inner part seaside, where the feeder ships and all the other ones can be monitored as well. Talking about some relevant capabilities, after we stressed some elements of the sharing one, the first thing is really more like not for port, but for maritime operations, just to show you how good we are in coping in working with large amount of data. So we had a chance to get from SAP HANA database the traffic of the vessels on the US East Coast in front and during a storm event, a hurricane. And as you can see, we can really dive into the data, see the whole traffic, segment the traffic specific to routes, specific to vessels. And then we can really see, and in this case, we're going to replay the data, how the vessel and the storm were moving. And you see very clearly how the vessel traffic is trying to prevent, obviously, the storm area for good measures, but also you see the alternative routes which were taken. So you can really dive into the system in order to pre-plan, but also in order to monitor what's going on. A very similar system we have deployed for a major German airline, where they do the same, obviously also for hurricanes and other exposures in the air, so that they can manage their air fleet in time and on demand in close to real time to see and optimize this traffic management. And obviously, these kind of natural events do impact port operations as well, as you can imagine and know. With a partner and customer of ours, CGI, they have implemented, based on part of our technology, the Western Shelf Planner for helping monitoring, organizing, but also makes admission planning in this area close to in Belgium. So our technology could be either used as end systems, but also can work as a platform to build to be embedded in a bigger system, like CGI has done here for the VTS Shelf. So the technology is pretty good and flexible in terms of usage. And I also bring later on a specific sample of the radar stuff. But of course, what's most important, but also naturally given to a certain degree, if you play in the maritime field, you need to display the maritime and the navigational chart imaging. So also in civilian as well as in military environment, our platform is used as a chart server, just to give you an example. And the same technology is also used in these information systems for maritime and port. Talking about radar, as you can see here, we do have here an artificial or synthetic radar topic, and we can fuse and play around with all different kind of visualization technologies. So we can really play around with the afterglow depending on the need to show the progress and the direction and the speed of certain ships. So it really depends on how long you want to have this afterglow. We can do this in 2D and 3D. These things are all working very nicely based on our platform. So, it's very natural to say and obvious to us that these things are obviously supporting all relevant standards of the industry. So there's no question about that one. As I said, hinterland is very important for port operations. I already have shown you a sample for the traffic information in the hinterland on the showcase of the port of Lisbon. This one here takes care about the inland waterway management, where we have the river-based feeder ships, but also the bigger feeder ships with all logs and all informations. So if those ships do send out the AIS signal, which they are sometimes not enforced to do, we can very nicely track and trace where these smaller ships are, where they are going to wait for the bigger ones to come in. And this information is obviously very useful when you start thinking about optimizing the operations from loading from the big and to unloading from the big and loading to the smaller and vice versa. So these are really helpful information systems we can build on top of the existing technology. But also the underwater is available, which means that part of Hexagon is also supporting bathymetric elements, and our software stack can very nicely display the underwater elements. Here it's even it's really a snapshot of our capabilities. So that means that we do have here an underwater drone, and we are, of course, can drape the imagery on the seabed very easily, but we also can extend this when the information is available and drape it on the actual underwater surface, so that you have an even better impression on how the situation is on the underwater. And obviously, this is also important for all the harbors who do have a small kind of riverbed in front to make sure that you have always the ship lines ready with the right depths and the right and not blocking obstacles in the underground. As I said, very often these information systems are used to link to other information systems and fuse the data together. Here with the Bremen ports, we have built for them a sample, which is especially for the contract management. So here all these different assets which are leased to other companies are managed by the system in terms of length of the contract, owners, subcontracting, and all these topics. Especially when it comes to utilities support, it's important that you have everything under control and know who has a certain SLA for a specific part. And the portal here in Bremen is going to manage this information for all different aspects. But also we do work with security parts. Means that especially we do take care about fence elements, means perimeter security. So we do have a specific division which is taking care about this video management and the monitoring part, but also what we have done in the past for specific ports, bringing up 2D and 3D fences, which helps you protecting your port area. And we can do a couple of 2D and 3D, as I said, fences with intrusion detection. We have the different mechanisms by cameras, by LiDAR, to monitor and preserve integrity of your area. We do this not only from land side, but obviously also on sea side, and also because of the increased new threat dome, we can do this as well for drones in the airspace. So we do have here several monitoring and protection systems, which helps you securing your port in the best probable way. Besides that, as I said, we not only playing on the port level, we also play with the vessel tracking. This one is a system which is built primarily by our partner Indra, where we do support with technology these partner, and he's using the VTS system basically for a port operations center, for river management and maritime management, for the port logistics, but also for detecting oil spoils and some surveillance from the coasts. So as I said, our system here provides the necessary capabilities to enable these kind of systems. Within Hexagon, we do have a lot of different elements and means to support you in the asset management. This is one sample from the port of Huelva in Spain. But we also do asset management for larger ports. But here in this webinar, we are more concentrating on the small and medium-sized. At the end, the asset management is a key topic for a lot of ports, and we do have from a more geospatial approach of asset management to a pretty nice structural event as well, where we do have asset management as a service provided by our colleagues from the EIM, Enterprise Asset Management. And we both work together so that you have the best of all worlds, which helps you doing the right decision of managing the assets, making the predictions in terms of when the assets needs to be maintained or even repaired, what you have on stock. So there's a lot of information available, which is typically placed in silos. And we have the technology and the systems which brings these different information together. So you have the full range of information on your fingertip. Also, in terms of port management, as I said, we do have, together with a partner, we have the Agatha port system, which is a port management system, where we are using the ability, or the colleagues are using the ability of viewing the information in 2D and 3D as they do need it, based on the corresponding use case. Last but not least, and I already spoiled it a bit, in terms of asset management, we are able of doing it not only in 2D, we can also do the whole asset management in 3D. And for example, fuse then live feed information into the system. For example, if you do have oil tanks with swimming covers, and you do have drones or other kinds of sensors, webcam feeds, we can fuse these information together in order to give you the best on-time and real-time information. After discussing some of these capabilities, I'm now handing over to my colleague Lucius, who gives you specific, more in-deep insights to the port community system as a service, which means this is specifically designed for small and medium ports. Lucius, handing over to you.
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everybody. Thank you very much, Uwe. Yeah, you heard a lot about information system, about the different capabilities of our broad portfolio in respect of port. Now I'm really happy, as Uwe mentioned, to give you an introduction in our port community system as a service. But first of all, let me give you some background about the need of such a PCS. So at the beginning, there is always a challenge naturally. Basically, what we have in this respect is, first of all, a challenge in the port. If you think about a port, there is multiple actors. There is, you see here, a list of some potential actors in a port. There are several more. There is siloed information. There is still quite a low level of digitization. And therefore, there are quite inefficient port calls. And yeah, these are mainly the challenges inside the port. So the digitization, a central information hub, a common operating picture, and really a network, a collaboration between these different stakeholders. Next slide, please. There are also challenges then between the different ports in the communication and in collaboration. So think about automated electronic data exchange. If there is a lack of digitization, this is quite a challenge. But this is needed for improved accuracy, for example, in estimated time of arrival, in making the whole port call more efficient, in reducing human interaction, in improving safety, and so on. But not enough. There is also a third challenge, and this is the IT challenge. So besides of the formal and operational challenges, there are several IT-related challenges like firewalls, data accessibility or missing data accessibility, different types of data formats, missing data compatibility, missing exchange of this data, security issue, data protection issues, sensitive data that cannot be or should not be shared, and so on. And also the digital availability of all this data. I mentioned it in the beginning, so low level of digitization, so a lot of data is not even available digitally. So what is our answer to all these challenges? It is called, as you heard before, Hexagon Port Community System as a Service. And with this solution, we really try to pick out the different capabilities needed that you saw before in the presentation from Uwe, and we stick together a solution mainly for small and medium ports, with especially with a software as a service solution, giving the benefits of no installation needed, so that the solution can really be accessed through internet, through the browser, so no local installation needed. It is subscription-based offering, so no upfront investments needed, and it is respecting all privacy, and it is working really completely on state-of-the-art data security and measurements of data sharing. In this slide, you see a short preview or a short video of such possible port community system in action. So first of all, we have the integration of AIS data. So you see the different ships moving around in real time. So we really collect real-time information, real-time location information of all these different ships of interest. But not only this, we also put them in a geographic context. We are capable to visualize them based on different background information, being it normal charts, nautical charts, and so on. We are also capable to integrate additional information of interest. Might it be weather information, wind information, rain information, and so on, to give a more all-in-one context of the whole scenery. But then it is also, it is important, the real-time aspect, so the different detailed information of a ship are at hand at all times. So I see the relevant information about estimated time of arrival, maybe length of a ship, speed, current speed, contact information, and so on. All these information always up to date as long as it is shared through AIS data. And Uwe mentioned it as well. So we are also capable to visualize all these information in a 3D environment. So we can add to this 3D buildings, for example, in a port scenery that gives us a more realistic visualization of the whole environment. In the next few slides, I would like to give you some highlights or some maybe USPs of this port community system as a service, very important features that we think are elementary for this type of solutions. So first of all, Uwe mentioned it before, the integration of electronic navigation chart, the nautical charts. We really have a very powerful engine behind this solution that is capable to provide these charts in real time and in very accurate precision to this 2D and 3D environment. As the next capability, so additional or further data that gives us more context, more spatial or geographic context to the scenery, both in 2D and 3D, being it, for example, 2D, 3D buildings, being it other types of 3D data if available, sensor data, camera data, as you saw it before. So all available data, being it 2D or 3D, can be integrated in this solution. And yes, in the next slide, we see for an additional of such an integration, the whole rail network that is related to the in combination with the ships related to the whole hinterland and transportation. So the whole rail network can also be important for this context. So the whole, all these different types of data, this is very variable depending on the port. Some ports need different information. Then we have, you see here, further data that we can integrate, live video streams, additional related data like weather data, like timetables, like scheduled arrivals, and so on. All these is really related to the common operating picture, to really have all the relevant information of the port in one solution, in one window at hand. Now for the next few slides, I really want to present you the real value of this port community system, because in a community, it's not only about the situational awareness or the operating picture, it's also about the collaboration and the information sharing. So what makes our port community system really special is what I'm going to tell you now. So based on our AIS data that we integrate, based on the destination port of a ship emitting to this port community system, we take this information, and as soon as this ship enters a certain fence approaching to the port, we automatically open a so-called collaboration channel, integrating all the relevant stakeholders of such a port call. And then this collaboration channel really integrates or brings together all the relevant stakeholders, and data can be shared between the different stakeholders. For example, documents for the port authority, some adjustment of the estimated time of arrival, and so on. So all the relevant information can be shared between the different stakeholders. And also, it's not only about digital sharing and collaborating based on this data. We also integrated in this solution offer an audio and video call capability, so there can be ad hoc calls in a secured environment between the different stakeholders if needed. So summarizing, we can really say that this port community system is, in our view, a must-have for ports. It really addresses the needs of small and medium ports. It gives them all the relevant features, all the relevant tools to make their port calls more efficient, to lower their cost in the whole port operation, to eliminate the different IT or operational barriers in terms of data sharing, in terms of data access, and this all can be used, is being delivered by Hexagon as a subscription-based software as a service environment, so very low level of entry. And with that, I would like to hand over back to Uwe.
So, thank you, Lucius, for showing the value of the PCS, especially also in respect to these maritime single windows, which are existing and relevant to first of all, exchange information, obviously, but also to better coordinate the port calls activity. And talking about port calls activity with a port in Spain, we have created a scorecard systems for them to better analyze the data and to better plan the operations. When the berth is starting, what is the vessel type which was initiating, the dwell time, the average delay, because everyone who's operating a port knows that ETA is the estimated time, and there are always delays. Overall, what we have done, we have created together with the customer a very intelligent data cube where we can really filter in. We are going to start the system, and then we do have different scores and different information, and also time slider, as you can see on the top. And out of that, we can create heat maps for certain activities, for certain operations. And with the help of these information system, we get different indicators, which helps to really optimize the port operation. Also important elements like what is the gross tonnage of the vessels will be taken in respect. And the really nice thing out of that is, as you can see on the left side, you start with the general one. And on the right-hand side, you can then basically have the situation after applying a certain amount of filters. And the whole system is automatically adapting to these filters, not only from the figures, but also on the heat map. So it really helps you understanding how these different indicators for the port calls are influencing your operation. So in a way that you can better start managing these operations. So this is the outcome and the most important element. What do we get in order to optimize the operations itself? And as you can see, a couple of different indicators are used here in order to get the right information out of this. Now, I want to summarize it a little bit, what you have heard in terms of the capabilities. So with a GIS-based system, you can handle and manage all different kinds of information, from the maritime side to the port side to the hinterland side, either on the sea or on the streetwise or on the tracks. You're going to have the ability of fusing these different data to making analytics to help optimizing the operations. You can link these to contracts and licenses. You can also fuse your asset management data to these approaches, and you have gotten an initial glimpse on how you can utilize this data and the sensitivity of your port, which is obviously not everywhere the same, to protect your port with adequate parameter security. Now, when we start thinking what's the next one, and we made a proof of concept for the port of Halifax. When we start fusing all these different capabilities into a scaled solution, with the exception of the PCS, because PCS has a different focus, but for these on-site management, this is how we see the future. And there you're also going to see that the 3D already looks totally different. It looks much more photorealistic, and this is by the help of Google tiles. So in principle, this is the replacement of the dummy 3D buildings you have seen so far. So you have a more photorealistic impression on the different buildings, on the different installations. But also what we can do, we can still have this combination of intelligence and sensor feeds. So we can see mounted video cams and then see the video feed inside. We do have the different areas where we do have the ability of managing the contracts and the licensing, depending on the area, depending on the subcontractor. So in a very nice and very appealing environment, which makes it, the information itself is obviously the same, but it looks for sure much smarter and nicer. And last but not least, and this is the end of this new showcase, we can then also link sensor feeds directly into the system. So for example, you're going to see, hope that it's not shown now. So you can see, for example, if you're going to track and trace persons, then you're going to get live feeds from where our persons are going around or equipment is going around. And these live feeds can then be structured and clustered according to the rules and the rights management. So this is a part of what we see how the future will be seen when we have information systems dealing in 2D, 3D for the port environment. And by that, we like to first of all thank you for listening, and we are now more than open to answer all the questions you have. Let me see.
Great, thanks so much, Uwe. Excellent presentation, both. We've got a couple of questions in the chat, but I'd just like to ask a quick one that kind of sets up Tim's question in the chat there. We talk about a lot of very advanced systems with a lot of detail and information in them.
Yeah.
What are the current method or the previous methods or the current methods, depending if there's a PCS in place, where you're accessing all of this camera information, satellite information, the rest of it? Are operators currently blind? Are they relying on radios and people on the ground? And when it comes to these sort of documentation overlays of who's in charge of what for which area of the port, are they currently sifting through giant stacks of paper contracts? What's the current state before the upgrade to these PCS systems?
Lucius, do you like to answer? Should I?
Yeah, so the current status, I mean, it definitely depends from port to port, but what we have seen is really, it is very, very manual. They oftentimes rely on a so-called agent. So they have a company, a shipping company has an agent in the relevant port, and basically it's all through smartphone, pushing messages back and forth, doing calls from peer to peer, and really this agent is kind of the proxy handling all the information from A to B and from A to C and so on. So this is really yeah, for me, from my perspective, was a bit surprising, and but that's how it works in many ports still.
Absolutely correct, and especially some elements like pushers and all the other services, you need to know when you need to be on which radio channel in order to know what you need to do next. And the question is, and this is from my perspective also one of the open topics, how can you prove that your agent got the message and acted appropriately, or that he missed a message for whatever reason? And so one of the key elements, especially with the PCS as we showed here, all this communication can be tracked and traced and stored in a way that you can validate your activity. Yeah, and this is not replacing the agent, obviously not, but it gives a nice tool to make it understandable and transparent about his activity. And also, what you should not underestimate, it's by far not the situation that everything is pre-aligned. So we do have the situation that on a certain port call, a ship owner have subcontracted per default to some services. And obviously our system stores these contracts and then not make an open call, hey, we do need oil. Instead, they directly go to the subcontracted or previous assigned company, say, hey, the ship is coming. This is what we need to bunker. Yeah. So we have basically both things, having kind of marketplace in case it's needed and execute pre-assignments when contracts are available.
Great. Creating a record, of course, very important. And I guess removing a fair amount of human error, which is a lot of the drive for digitalization everywhere, right?
Yeah. So the point is, and this is all, and that's my point is really in this, when we cannot replay a certain activity, how do we want to learn about optimization? So how do we spot potential optimization in the process if we do not document the process? It's a little bit obscure to me, I would say it that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was Tim's question in the chat that made me think of that, which is, what are the main technical barriers small and medium-sized ports face when transitioning from manual systems? Let's start with from manual systems to perhaps a traditional PCS, and then maybe to PCS as a service, just to underline the differences between the two there.
So I tried to answer this already in the chat. I didn't really know how to answer in the question section, but yeah, basically what we can say in general is that the main barrier is at the end normally organizational, because there's minimal technical barrier with our approach of port community system as a service. As it is browser-based, these technical challenges are really quite minimal. It is the main barrier, as I said, is organizational. Am I allowed to share this data? Do you have the capability? Can I first of all digitize this data to be shared in an efficient way, and so on?
And is there a bit of a chicken and egg situation there between the digitization and the digitalization?
Which is it's a nice one. That's a really nice one, because obviously the first stuff is, as you said, you need to digitize first, because you need to get rid of all these handwritten information and stuff. And when you have digitized it, then we start really thinking about what do we do in order to make it digital in a way that we can start working on processes, operations, and these things. But the key, as a matter of fact, even we are sometimes surprised how things are working. It's I never witnessed any situation where neither the port nor the ship don't have to report something to someone else. That's common gift. I mean, gift in quotes, please. So that's common operation. So people are entitled, depending on the region of the world, to already communicate to something. So why is the maritime single window so important for the ships? Because the ships, depending on the region, they have to submit up to 15 or 19 reports to different agencies with more or less identical information, but with different flavors, I would say. Now, and the success story and the whole idea of the maritime single window is by providing this standardized set of electronic data exchange where nearly all of these reports can be extracted from, et voila, you create it once and everyone is happy with the information. And very similar, it's with the PCS. So when the PCS reads the data, which comes from the maritime single window, it already has a lot of upfront information, which is super helpful to optimize operations. And vice versa, when we know when the ship is designed to go, we can provide to the destination harbor via Maritime single window already a lot of information so that their operations get optimized. And the issue today is that we do have multiple electronic systems which do not work together. Yeah. So, and even if we make it happen on the maritime side, we still lack to communicate to our logistics centers, to the hinterland operators, and. And the value of the PCS, and in combination with the Maritime National Window, is that we do have a mean of an electronic data transfer where everybody understands the same object. So we have a common object definition. So we do understand what the other one is saying and meaning. And this is the basis for a digital process, which then can be analyzed and optimized per port, because the optimization potential is obviously individual and not one size fits all.
Yeah, the demands from ports must, and the problems that they have to solve must vary dramatically. I mean, sticking with that, what are the range of sizes of ports that are using these kind of systems, and do you see between the port sizes a sort of difference in importance between the various capabilities of the PCS?
Lucius, you started so far always first, so I wanted to keep that.
Yes. So as Uwe and me, we both mentioned at the beginning, and also the title says it's really small and medium-sized ports. So we experienced that bigger ports or big ports like I don't know, Hamburg, Rotterdam, and so on. They handle these topics on another level, on an individual level. But our solution is really meant to address small and medium-sized ports. I give you an example: the port of Rostock in Germany, or maybe also port of Bremen, what is already a bit bigger. But this also maybe answers a bit the next, or one of the other questions about the flexibility or the customization of such a PCS. So our approach was really to provide a solution that is in some ways very flexible, very customizable in terms of what data should be brought in, what data does a port need to have a complete operational picture. But on the other end, it is as easy as possible to use. Workflows are as streamlined as possible, and are not very customizable, or like streamlined to the main operations, to the main workflows. So these smaller ports are normally stick to.
Yeah, I would really add to, in addition to what Lucius said, in a way that, it's more than obvious that all big ports do have it. It doesn't matter if you talk to Los Angeles, Singapore, Rotterdam, whatever, you name it, you get it. But those organizations do have the ability and also the financial power to operate an IT department. And this IT department can then either buy the software or make the software. They can take care about all cybersecurity topics, which is a big threat nowadays, as we all know, and so on. So when we look to the smaller port and the medium-sized port, and there's some an international definition how much toys one differs to the other. I forgot about what the limits are, but it's not really important. The core element is that those ports do have 1 or 2 or 3 persons taking care about all IT. Now, when you want to talk from the port to the ship owners, to the logistics, to the supplier, to the other operators, to security, it's a hell of activity to either convince them that they have to use your system, or that you are going to take care about how to interface their existing systems, because logistics has their systems, ship owners have their systems. So you need to provide the interfaces to these systems, obviously. And the third one, do it in a way that you can guarantee the security and the authentication of the data, that no one is going to fake the data, spoof the data, and. So this is a huge task to make sure that you can go through all the different firewalls for linking to the data. And that's the reason why we said, and why we specifically addressing the small and medium-sized ports, because for them, a system which runs out of the cloud, which is monitored by the cloud provider, in this case, it's from Microsoft Azure. They take care about all cybersecurity topics as usual. We take care about the correctness of the data and the data privacy within the system. Obviously, this is also a very important part which needs to be recognized. And so the interface and the technical burden, as Lucius correctly pointed out, is a web browser. And also, you're going to enter the data you want to enter. What you don't enter, we cannot access. So you have no issue to compromise your own systems. But you do have electronic ports, IT ports-based communication to your systems in the DM set or whatever you like to have a well-monitored, well-guided, and a secure way of communicating and exchanging the data. And I think that's a real benefit. And doing this by yourself with your own IT forces, I do not want to blame any one of the IT forces of a small or medium-sized port, for sure not. They are great people and they do really magic to a certain degree. But just by the number of people available, it's sometimes a little bit a stretch for them.
Yes, of course. So this low barrier to entry, I guess, extends to all of these stakeholders that we've been talking about, including that kind of that information sharing collaboration channel per ship call that Lucius mentioned earlier. They all just need a web browser to access and play their part.
Exactly. So the entrance barrier is pretty low.
Great.
Sorry,
far away. Go for it.
No, I see a very interesting question about the navigation system and live positioning, and that is a really nice one. Yes, we can do this. We can monitor. We can show this, but in addition, and this comes more like from other areas as well, but will help doing this job pretty nicely. What we have done for example, for border guard, coastal guards, we can also link in analytics systems into the whole arena, which helps you identifying anomalies. So you have a certain normal pattern of operations, like also for the TAC and for other ones, and port control topics. So you have a certain expected behavior, I would say that way, and we can help spotting anomalies in abnormal behavior, which then helps you prevent that a sailing boat is smashing into the harbor bridge or Brooklyn bridge in this case, and lose some masts and create some injuries. So yeah, we can help this not only on the maritime traffic, but also on the port operations. If we do have the sensors and we do have something which is called pattern of life, so what is the expected behavior, we can help you highlighting anomalies of this standard behavior and help you mitigating bigger situations and incidents.
Perfect. Yes. Thank you for that excellent question in the chat. I think we're just about at time now. It's absolutely flown by, but we're just coming up. I think we're on 59 minutes. So I guess we'll wrap here. Just leaves me to thank you both, Uwe and Lucius, for your time. Very interesting presentation. If you're in the audience and have any more questions to ask, there'll be an email going out with a link to the recording, and I'm sure you can drop us all an email with any burning questions you have as well. Any last words that you want to add in there, either of you?
Thank you very much.
I could say everything was said and perfectly summarized by Lucius.
Excellent. Thanks both so much, and thank you all for watching, and we'll see you on the next C-Trade Maritime webinar. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.